Yesterday, Sayadaw talked about how this practice is a true method for not letting one's life go downhill. This practice lifts one's life up, but not suddenly. It does so slowly and gradually. When we avoid physical and verbal misdeeds, then our life is lifted up. And when we use sati to cure and to prevent the mental defilements from coming into our mind stream. And we use knowledge in stages to uproot the seeds of the dormant kilesas. This is high-level work, and work that leads us downward is despicable. It's not desirable. This training is the opposite. Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, the three trainings, Sila Seka, Samadhi Seka, and Panya Seka, are fulfilled automatically if one practices the four foundations of mindfulness, the four satipatthanas. These three trainings are to be done. They aren't to be avoided. One has to avoid the things that should not be done. And the Buddha made the distinction between two things. He said that when we do things that should be done, things that are suitable, then we get good results, we get benefits. When we do things that are unsuitable and should be avoided, should not be done, then we get bad results. Those who don't want to get bad results avoid the things that are misdeeds, avoid the things that should not be done. And they do the good deeds level by level as much as they can. So after we take the Sila, Sayadawji's words are Apamadena Sampadeta. That means to carry out your work with apamada. And Sayadaw will discuss what the meaning is of this word apamada now. Apamadena sampadeta. This means, sampadeta means that we should carry out to fulfillment the three trainings of Sila, Samadhi, and Panya, morality, concentration, and wisdom. We should bring them to fulfillment with apamada. This is the opposite of pamada. This means we should, with continual sati, with steadfast sati, that we are never without. The Buddha instructed us to do that, to do this with his omniscient knowledge, Samanyutta Jnana, and with great compassion. Sayadaw will explain this in theory and practice. In the world, there are two kinds of tasks. One is kataba, that in Pali, that is what should be done. And the second is akataba, that is what should not be done. Or in other words, we can say what should be carried out and what should be avoided. So to carry out or to perform what should be done, we must have apamada. And also to avoid completely the things that should not be done, what should be avoided, we must have apamada. In Buddhist culture, apamada and pamada are very important. And today Sayadaw will speak about what they are. And knowing what apamada is, he will reveal what pamada is. In the text, the Buddhist text, the essential meaning of the three pitakas, the tipitaka, the three baskets, or the teachings of the Vinaya, the monastic discipline, the suttas, and the Abhidhamma. If we are to sum up the essential meaning of the whole Tipitaka, apamada is said to include everything that the Buddha taught. And to reveal the meaning of apamada, if I understand correctly, we would have to reveal everything that is in the text. Sati is explained in the text in this way. Apamadoti satya avipavaso. This means that apamada is to never be without mindfulness or sati. Whatever posture we may be in, whatever we are doing, sitting, standing, walking, lying down, whatever minor action we may be performing, even down to opening and closing the eyes, whatever we are doing, we need to be doing it with mindfulness. We should never be without mindfulness. This is the essence of apamada. And we have to have the determination, first of all, to observe everything that arises. Making this determination in our mind is very important. At the start, of course, there are misses, but we should have the determination to notice everything without missing. Whatever arises, we should have the determination to note it. And with this determination, this is basically what apamada, this will become, with this determination, apamada will take place. So, whatever posture, we should be aware of what we are doing, whatever we are, whatever small act we are making. Every waking moment, we should always make the effort to have mindfulness stick to the arising object. And at the start, we have to train ourselves. But when we gain skill, then mindfulness, sati, will stick to whatever object arises. And even it gets to the point where even if we try to wake up the kilesas in the mindfulness will not go there. It will either not go or it'll come right back. So this Sayadaw is explaining things in terms of how the yogis experience when they practice according to the text. And when we combine theory and practice, this is the answer that will come out. An example of apamada is that when we drive a car, we understand the rules of the road. We need to understand the rules of the road and do things like observe the speed limit. And when there's a curve, we need to slow down. And when we come to an intersection with a light, if it's green, go ahead. Yellow, proceed with caution. Red, come to a stop. So when we follow the rules of the road, we're not in the wrong, and also we don't harm others. In driving, everyone who drives has the responsibility to drive like this. And it's similar in our life. We have a life, and it's our responsibility to walk the correct path, to control ourselves so that we don't harm others. And for doing this Dhamma is very beneficial. If we compare a handsome person with another handsome person, so that we're looking at them side by side, the beauty of one, the beauty of that first person is not very apparent in comparison to another handsome or beautiful person. But when a beautiful or handsome person is compared with someone who doesn't look very attractive, then their beauty is quite apparent. And in the same way, Sayadaw will explain pamada in relationship to apamada. So pamada is being negligent. It's negligence, heedlessness, carelessness. And apamada, on the other hand, is the opposite. It's not being negligent. It's being diligent, vigilant in carrying out one's duties. Among humans, a true human has a duty to avoid certain acts. And among these are killing. Anyone with basic intelligence will tell you that killing is wrong, and if you do it, it ruins your reputation. Stealing is also something to be avoided. When we take things that belong to others, it harms them. They suffer. And acts such as adultery, rape, and incest, these are carried out by people who have no sympathy for the other person. And one should avoid these acts. And in doing so, one can keep one's good reputation and not harm others. Lying is something that people do, sometimes for oneself and sometimes for others. But either way, it's something to be avoided. To be lied to also hurts us. We should only speak things that are true and things that are beneficial, and we should speak in a friendly way. Recreational drugs and drink are also not good, and when we take the 8 precepts, there's the word paṇḍitā. That means that these alcohol and drugs are the base for this negligence to arise. Because when we're under the influence of drugs and drink, we don't do the things that should be done, and we don't avoid the things that should be avoided. And drugs and drink, the influence of drugs and drink can really drive us crazy. They can make us into a crazy person, and under their influence we harm ourselves and others. So drugs cause one's behavior, one's good behavior to become ruined, and also other people are hurt by the actions that we do. And the use of illicit or recreational drugs and drink causes many problems which are difficult to solve. And further, another form of misdeed are bad mental attitudes. One should avoid having bad mental attitudes. One should try to control one's mind. And because we have the seeds for defilements to arise in us, because defilements lie dormant, and also because they can exist on an obsessive level, they can rise up and lead to transgressions. So we have to understand that all of these things are things to be avoided. Misdeeds are things that bring bad results. We have to dispel them and replace them with good deeds. When we don't take care to do this, when we're careless in this regard, when we neglect this responsibility, this is negligence. And because of pamada, many, many problems exist in the world, and pamada, if we are negligent, it causes our good reputation and our good behavior to be destroyed, and it also causes others to suffer. The root of pamada is not having the understanding of what is good for oneself and others, not having the ability to know whether something is beneficial or not for oneself or others. And without this knowledge, one goes to extremes in trying to get what one wants. So one only sees one only wants one's success, one's own gain, or the gain of the success of one's family or group. This is extreme greed, extreme lobha. So one who acts solely on selfish interests doesn't have any desire for the welfare of others, and doesn't have any desire for the welfare of other groups besides his or her own group. And thus there's no loving kindness, no metta, which is the wish for others' welfare. And because there's no loving kindness, when one suffers in some way, when one is harmed, then one immediately resorts to hatred and anger. And one doesn't have any ability to be sympathetic with others because of extreme selfishness, and thus one turns to cruelty. So without metta, one goes easily to anger, and without sympathy, one turns to cruelty. So the basis for this to happen is a lack of knowledge about what is beneficial and not beneficial, what is suitable and not suitable. And this, in such a person's being, this negligence is a very large factor. And a person who is negligent like this spends one's entire life basically performing misdeeds. And thus there's no substance to one's life. At the end of their life, they've just spent their whole life doing wrong. And this is the bad result that comes from pamada. We say the word human, but humans don't live alone. We live in families, we have friends, we have social groups, we have work groups. So we have many types of groups. This is our nature. And although we live in different countries and we speak different languages, we're all human. And every human has to undertake tasks, not only in terms of how it affects oneself, but in terms of how something affects other people. This is an outlook that every human should have. One should be able to evaluate whether a task is beneficial or not, whether it's suitable or not. One has to understand this, and one has to have fairness. One should have the desire to want another person's welfare. One should want what is good for other people. And this quality is metta. If one has that quality, then one also will not want to destroy other people's welfare. One won't want to see their welfare, another person's good situation, be destroyed. And thus compassion, karuna, will also be in one's mind. With pamada, negligence, one neglects one's social duty because one does not, because one is only concerned with oneself, and one also neglects one's responsibility with regard to family and friends. So all the human responsibilities that we have, when pamāda is there, they become neglected. Without knowledge of what is beneficial and not, one goes to the extreme selfishness, extreme greed. And such a person, when they are harmed in any way, they easily hurt others. So their behavior is really not, their behavior becomes very base. And giving one's mind free rein regarding misdeeds, this is pamāda, or negligence. If we don't avoid misdeeds, then we'll get bad results. And we should despise these misdeeds that bring about bad results. The bad results are created by our unsuitable physical, verbal, and mental behavior. We should avoid these with the desire to avoid the results they bring. And if we want good results, then just as we should eat good and suitable food, we should learn what is suitable and what isn't, and the suitable things we should eat. We should eat them on time. And doing that, we'll get the benefits. The benefits of eating nourishing food come naturally when we eat. And we also have to avoid bad results. So we have to avoid doing things that bring bad results, and we should cherish the good deeds that bring good results. All people should have the ability to reflect like this. If we want to be truly human, then when we're considering doing something, whether it's for oneself or for others, one should think about, is it beneficial or not? One should think about, is it suitable or not, both for self and others? And if it's beneficial, then it's good, beneficial and suitable. This type of act won't bring harm to oneself or others. Without this ability to reason, one doesn't take care, and one neglects one's responsibility and thus does things that shouldn't be done. In doing misdeeds, one gets bad results, and those around us, if it's us who is doing them, those around us suffer. And in the world, there are many, many people who behave like this. This carelessness, negligence, which is called pamāda, has three groups or three levels. And the first level is gross negligence. The second is medium. And the third is subtle negligence. And in the same way, apamāda also has three grades. And major, medium, and refined. So Sayadaw will begin by talking about gross negligence and its opposite, which maybe we could call major apamāda or large-scale apamāda. Pamāda on a gross level is failing to avoid the 10 duccaritas, the 10 kinds of misdeeds that should be avoided. Due to lack of care, one neglects the responsibility to avoid them. And thus one lets one's mind have free rein with regard to physical misdeeds, kaya duccaritas, verbal misdeeds, vaci duccaritas, and mental misdeeds, mano duccaritas. One doesn't have the control of sati, mindfulness. One acts on whatever comes up in one's mind without any control. Someone who kills, in essence, they cannot control their anger. And not having the control of sati, a killer will just let that desire to kill have free rein and will act on it. So first of all, it's letting the mind have free rein, and then again and again giving in to the desire to commit any one of these misdeeds. And for killers, it's the act of killing, the giving into the angry mind. And also there's stealing and adultery. When one doesn't control the mind with sati, first of all, one lets one's mind go, and then one doesn't control it. One lets it indulge repeatedly in the misdeed. So one who lets one's mind go free, letting it have free rein, and then undertaking misdeeds and transgressing, that person is negligent. And apamada is the opposite. A person who is diligent or vigilant, they don't let their mind indulge in these duccaritas, these three groups of misdeeds. Such a one doesn't fail to avoid doing them. Here we have a group of both foreign and local yogis, and the monks keep the sila relevant to monks, and the monks have to observe their sila. And when they are going to do something, they think, is it suitable or not? Is it beneficial or not? And being able to reflect in this way, they're able to keep their sila. And yogis keep the 8 precepts. They also have to consider if their action is beneficial or not, and suitable or not, regarding these 8 precepts. And being able to reflect like this, one can control one's behavior and keep one's sila. And due to keeping one's sila, one gets a very suitable result. One's behavior is lovable, delightful. And one controls oneself. At the same time, others aren't harmed. So this is a very desirable result to have, and it comes from keeping sila. So just from keeping sila, already this is quite good. Just the benefit that we get from keeping sila, the benefit of having behavior that is easy to be around, loved by others, delightful. So this is the large-scale level of pamada and apamada. And tomorrow Sayadaw will continue by discussing how our mentality is either negligent or diligent, vigilant, this is in regard to the medium and refined levels of pamada and apamada. This is all for tonight. And refined levels of pamada and apamada. This is all for tonight. And refined levels of pamada and